All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll wait just a few seconds here before we get kicked off, but we appreciate you guys being here for sure. And we've got a few rolling in right now. Awesome. Looks like we've got a good group coming in. We'll go ahead and kick it off. I just want to thank everybody for joining today's webinar on XenTegra's private cloud. I'm Trevor Mansell. I'll be hosting and being part of the panel as we dive into today's discussion around private cloud, and then more specifically around XenTegra's Nutanix hosted offerings. And we've got a great panel. I'll let each of them introduce themselves, but they're all rock stars and pretty decent human beings as well. So, Brian, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. I'm Brian Clark. I am the Chief Architect and Technology Officer. I'm in charge of running the data centers that host all of our managed services. I have created several of these services in conjunction directly with Nutanix themselves. Trevor and I are no strangers to doing webinars and podcasts. Make sure to check out our additional content as we deep dive a lot of the technologies that we're going to discuss here. I'll hand it off to Philip, who's next on the list here.
Thanks, Brian. I'm Phil Sellers. I'm the practice director for modern data center here at XenTegra. And it may sound like a funny title, calling it modern data center, but we did that intentionally here because we understand that customers use all sorts of cloud services to get the job done today. And that could include SaaS, it can include hyperscale cloud, or it can include MSP-based services like what we're going to talk about today here at XenTegra. And I like to think of this as kind of our superpower. We're not only a customer of Nutanix, but we're also putting products out there for you based on Nutanix to get the job done. So really happy to be here and participate today. Mark, turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Mark Vincent. I'm the president of XenTegra One, XenTegra Small Business Division. So we handle customers generally 250 users or below. We love Nutanix as a offering and are excited to be part of the conversation today.
Awesome. And I guess I didn't introduce myself. I lead up our managed services, so that includes all the hosted solutions, support solutions, and all managed services. So cool. So this slide is really to not necessarily just to pat ourselves on the back. It's really, I think, the big takeaway here is we have put a lot of focus and investment around our data center solutions, and specifically around our partnership with Nutanix. And this is just kind of highlights that. Also, we're obviously proud of what we've done in the EUC space around Citrix and being Worldwide Partner of the Year and Worldwide Partner of the Year in the past, and now ServiceNow. So we've got a full, we've got some really exciting things happen in XenTegra, but obviously today we are focusing down hard into the data center, which we all love here. So and this just gives a breakout of the different business units and solution areas that that we're focusing in. So that we're talking today specifically, obviously Philip leads our modern data center solution set. We've got modern apps that is that's where ServiceNow lives, with being led by Fred Reynolds. And we've got security, networking, and then obviously a long history in the modern workspace led by Bill Sutton. And then we've got and just Mark introduced himself, but just calling out XenTegra One. So we know that customers that are in the SMB size space have different needs necessarily than the mid-market and enterprise. And so we have a focused division of our organization that puts together solutions and services are specifically aimed at that group of customers. Our founder and one of the big things that we do here is community building, and that's really what it boils down to, is that, hey, we all spend a lot of time working, and relationships are important, and we put a lot into bringing people together, and around the idea of education, networking, and just helping everybody be successful, whether you do business with us or not, whether you're a partner or not. We really our founder has a big passion for this part of our business. So one of the other things that we do a lot of giving away, and this is just one of the things, and a lot of our clients and prospective clients leverage this. Is if you're interested in going to one of the industry shows, whether it's .next with Nutanix or Cisco Live or one of the others, we'll pay 90% for conference passes for you. So something that no one else is doing out there, and that we a way that we can give back, and again bring people together as we and develop relationships, and make working a lot more fun together. So we also, in the same vein, we give a lot from a services perspective through micro assessments. So if you are a current client, or you're looking at XenTegra as a prospective partner, it's a great way to get introduced to us. You get essentially a great value for and you get to meet our experts. You get to work with them side by side and get to know us before you decide to do a project with us or purchase a service. So great thing. Another thing to call out here is that we're talking about hosted services today, and that is the topic of conversation. But when it comes to Nutanix and other solutions as XenTegra, we're advisors and consultants first, and so whether the need is or a combination of the above, whether you're building out your on-prem data center that you're managing, and the DR, that's we will work with you on the resale motion, or if you're a customer that manages your primary data center, and you want to outsource or leverage a third-party hoster or a private cloud or a public cloud for your DR or a secondary data center, we will work with you either way. We're not one or the others, and I think you find that a lot of times in our industry. There's one direction or the other. So so why Nutanix? Why does XenTegra, why have we gone head first around this particular solution? And that's a great question. And the answer is not because it's not Broadcom. I think there'll be people out there that are looking at Nutanix just because it's not Broadcom right now. We've been partnering with Nutanix for many years, and I think I'll let Brian. Brian was a hardcore 3-tier VMware guy, and I remember having conversations with Brian and said, "Hey, Brian, what do you think about Nutanix?" And he looked at me like, no way. You're going to have to tear this 3-tier out of my dead cold hands. But why don't you maybe share a little bit about why is XenTegra for you specifically, and what kind of turned you from your old ways?
I can summarize that answer with one word, and that one word would be storage. Right. So when you talk about 3-tier, I mean, VMware is a fantastic product. Either you can buy a lot of fantastic SANs, and you can buy a lot of fantastic compute platforms. but they're all separately managed and they're all kind of a pain in the butt to keep working holistically together, right? You're going to be looking at a ton of like compatibility charts and lists, and you're going to have different upgrade cycles and firmware versions, and it's just a pain in the butt. And so being a very, I would think the definitive shop for end user compute, uh, file storage for your users is a very big part of that, and having to manage Windows file servers just got to be such a headache that seeing Nutanix files deployed for the first time and now having the holistic Nutanix unified storage platform really is what sold me. The ability to manage all of that stuff beautifully via policies and Prism Central was just mind-blowing to me at the time. And so having that storage capacity with the ease of use of Nutanix is what sold me on Nutanix.
Awesome. So, and it's not Broadcom, right?
It's not Broadcom.
uh, so Philip, what do you think here? I mean, obviously, flexibility of cloud. This is a marketing slide. You are Mr. Nutanix. I mean, why Nutanix from your perspective?
For me, it's the flexibility that it really brings to the table. Like Brian said, it's a great platform, but a lot of the core innovation comes around their storage, and all of the things that they've really focused on tie back into that really strong software-defined storage, and that gives you flexibility. You gain the ability to do things like files, objects. You can run container services, databases in a really orchestrated way. And so, it is a marketing slide, but Nutanix does a good job of making things simple. And Brian alluded to that. Lifecycle management is generally pretty hard, but Nutanix has made it a lot easier to do that, to keep things up to date, to keep things deployed. You know, and up to date is kind of a hard thing, but they make it an easy button. And so everything from the first day to day two operations to, extensions and upgrades, new nodes, changing out the hardware platform, everything's got a really automated way of operation. And so to me, that's how they make multi-cloud simple. And unlike other software platforms, their same software runs anywhere. So we run the same thing that a customer is going to run on their site. The public cloud version of Nutanix, guess what? Same software stack that we run inside of our data centers on XenTegra Cloud. So it gives us a lot of flexibility because it is the same. So the team that learns Nutanix in one place can support it anywhere. And it's really approachable. Generally, when my team's out helping a customer stand up Nutanix, it takes about 15 minutes to kind of get them started, show them the UIs, and then they're off and working. So it really does, like this slide say, make things simple.
Yeah, no, perfect. Awesome. So kind of diving into when it comes to XenTegra Cloud or our private Nutanix hosted cloud services, the use cases that we're focused on primarily are the above. So DR as a service that we'll talk about, backup as a service, leveraging the unified storage platform in Nutanix, desktop as a service. We have a long history in that, and that's really where we got started from a hosting perspective a number of years ago, and just providing the best end user experience. Leveraging Nutanix, leveraging Flash, leveraging NVIDIA GPU to just blow the socks off anything out there. And then infrastructure as a service that we'll talk a lot about today, and then an emerging area that we as I'm sure it's a part of every conversation now is around Gen AI and how that's starting to come into everybody's strategy, and we're getting requests daily in that area as well. So Brian, I'll let you go ahead and take it from here, but and just kind of start diving into hey, what are we doing from a hosting perspective at XenTegra?
Yeah. So, we have not always done Nutanix as XenTegra, as Trevor alluded to. We were a standard 3-tier. We've done hosted services for almost 8 years now, and probably just about 5 of them are on Nutanix solely. So the idea here was that we started off with one piece of what Nutanix could do, and that was end user compute. VDI, primarily Citrix in a box that we would deploy for customers for very specific workloads. And we slowly began to phase in these additional things that Nutanix could do over time, wrapping our hands around it and making sure that we could deliver the same kind of service that we did around EUC and VDI that we could with all these other differentiating things that Nutanix can do. Because Nutanix can do pretty much anything you needed to do in the data center. So as we added additional workloads, new workloads became available. Things like Nutanix objects in the storage portfolio, and currently, which is super hot, as Trevor just alluded to, the wonderful components of generative AI in the data lake. Nutanix is a great platform. Hyperconverged as a theory and as a solution is a great platform for AI and data lake because of how it scales, and you always need to scale those workloads in chunks. So Nutanix is like bread and butter for those. So we've added these services and offerings to our portfolio, entirely based on the data stack that we had originally created. Kind of deep diving into why customers like using us is because we really give our customers the extra effort and don't sell stuff that we're not good at. We were very adamant that we want to be the best possible solution provider for what a customer needs. We're not just going to sell you something and try and figure it out on the back end, right? So Nutanix is a great platform for that because it's all very similar. When they release a new offering, it's going to use the same kind of GUI. It's going to have the same kind of requirements that their previous offerings had, that Nutanix just layers on additional functions and components. There's a lot of great stuff that we can do with Nutanix now that they weren't able to provide back in the day. Things like standard VLANs, or the way that you would segment customer workloads way back in the day. Now they've released Flow Virtual Networking, which allows us to really isolate and put customer subnets in their own bubble without having to overlap them with other subnets. So it's really great what Nutanix is doing. And we're right there with Nutanix product development. We're taking the feedback from our customers saying this doesn't work right. We're directly talking to Nutanix executives and the product developers saying our customers need this. And then lo and behold, they'll throw it in the product incrementally over time, and our customers are happy about that. I can confidently say that in the last year, we have reached a 99.99% uptime. I am not one to read the slides, so we will send a copy of this deck out on the website. But I really want to touch home on that uptime. That's better than a huge majority of our competitors. And realistically, the majority of that uptime is due to that Nutanix platform and the stability that Nutanix Hyperconverged can bring to a data center.
Hey, Brian,
Yeah.
I got a question for you. Well,
Shoot.
to any of you are. So I was just thinking about, the word private cloud gets thrown around pretty loosely. What is, it made me think, like, what is actually a private cloud other than servers in someone's data center, right? And I guess in our case, it would be a third-party data center. What is, in your mind, what is the value of a third-party private cloud versus a hyperscaler? Like what?
Twofold, and I'll let Philip answer after myself. But number one, we are way more cost effective for customized workloads than the public cloud, significantly cost effective, while giving you more functionality and the ability to bring your bare metal workloads in conjunction with it. Chances are, if you are a big legacy corporate entity, you have some random box, some AIX 500 or something that you have to tote along with your workloads that you can't put in public cloud, or would be very outrageous to put into public cloud. And we have the ability to bring your bare metal workloads into our cloud and put them side by side your Nutanix workloads. So cost is probably the number one thing. And the second is it's turnkey, right? Our engineers are the ones swapping out disks and doing firmware upgrades. Nutanix is a great platform, but they have updates just like everyone else, and they can't magically make those updates go any faster, right? It's running on the same Intel or AMD based hardware as everything else in the world, and there's just limitations on how that update cycle goes on that hardware, right? And sometimes if you have a big enough cluster, it's 12 or 13 hours to do an update. And that's a lot of time for having an engineer babysit a workload that you know is just going to come back anyway, right? And we take away that burden from our customers and can provide them the ability just to focus on the actual workloads themselves and not the underlying infrastructure that it takes to run that workload. Phil, you have anything you want to add onto that?
Here's a question I want to insert in there. I mean, do you think that, is there an assumption that the platform being used in a private cloud is like an industry standard, whether that's ESX or HV or Hyper-V or something like it? Is that an assumption you make when you say private cloud? Or, I mean, because I think that's a big difference maker when I start, when you start thinking about what the values are, because that's standardization, comfortability with the platforms being used, integrations, and that type of thing. I don't know. What's your thought, Phil?
It's funny to me because like I think as you think about cloud, you care a lot less about what logo is on it. You're buying services, you're buying outcomes. And so for me, the fact that we've got a huge win built on Nutanix is great because when we've given flexibility to any VMware or Nutanix customer to bring their workloads, we're going to have similar uptime capabilities that they're used to in their own private data center. And the one thing I would add to kind of what Brian said is we also bring a personal relationship as you're running your cloud. And you're not going to get that with hyperscalers. We like to think of everything we do in managed services as co-managed services. And so our team becomes an extension of your team. And so those two things are huge differentiators because as I've worked in organizations where we leveraged public cloud, we lost a level of control. We lost a level of relationship over the workloads and how they were being treated. With the way that we do cloud with XenTegra Cloud, you get to maintain that high level of control that you lose with public cloud, and you get that personalization that our team brings through the services that we're offering. And so it's a win across the board, right? As Brian said, I totally agree. Better cost points, highly cost effective. You get the personalization and the control. I think that turns it into a slam dunk.
Yeah, Mark, any thoughts? I know you're a relationship guy, Mark. I know that. So
yeah, to me, it definitely is a relationship thing. I think that when you have a relationship in the public cloud, you don't really know who you're dealing with on the other side. And certainly, people like that proverbial one throat to choke sort of mentality, right? When there's a problem, they know they can call you and you will pick up the phone and you will make it a priority for them. So I think that's a huge part of it. And also, there are a lot of customers that have, maybe, and I'm not saying it's right, but maybe sort of a distrust insecurity on putting their data in the public cloud as well. A good portion of my customers are small, but they're generally a lot of startups. We deal a lot in like the semiconductor industry or the biotech industry, and they have a lot of proprietary data. Somehow I think when you're, talking to the head of IT for one of these types of organizations, they have a better level of comfort knowing that we are the people that host their data and only we have access to their data versus this nebulous that they're pushing at. I think there's a certain value to that as well. Peace of mind.
yeah, no, I agreed. All right.
So, when Trevor and I began our hosted offerings a while ago, many, many, many years ago, ooh, I feel old. We decided and have been with Equinix that entire time. And the reason was, Nutanix is a fantastic platform, and we had a fantastic platform prior to Nutanix. And you can have the fastest Ferrari in the world or Lamborghini or whatever car you want, right? But if you are on a cobblestone or dirt road, you're never going to get it as fast as you need to, right? And so we just settled on using Equinix, and I use the word settled here. We decided on Equinix as the premier hosting platform for our services in our data center because they are a global massive behemoth of a data center company, and you can get POPs anywhere you need to, and we can provide our customers with those super fast lanes they need to get to their resources, right? So we have an East Coast and a West Coast data center in the United States, and we have the ability to spin up our resource locations at any of the Equinix locations globally. And we're getting ready to stand one up here in Toronto for customers that need this out of Canada. So the Equinix platform, that level of connectivity, is just the cherry on top for our customers already getting the best in breed with the Nutanix platform.
Yeah, and Mark, on the we're in the switch data centers as well. So we definitely have options, and that from a SMB side, they're a pretty amazing data center company as well. But yeah, just as Brian said, I think Equinix is a game changer for a lot of people. We need to be able to support global customers, and I mean, being able to have the lowest latency connections into every SaaS app and cloud out there, it does it. And so it just gives us the fabric. Their fabric is, if you're already in Equinix by chance and you want to have consume a service from XenTegra, it is super easy to just snap into the fabric and get that connectivity set up. But so we're fans.
Trevor made a great point there and touched on it. We're more than just co-located in Equinix. We are a consumer and provider of the Equinix fabric, which makes us very easy to connect into. It's literally just a couple clicks on a website. Which really kind of brings us to our next point here, is that we didn't just buy a whole lot of crazy awesome gear. I know if you're like me and you're more of a tech guy than you are of a sales guy, you love technology and you love bells and whistles and you love toys. And XenTegra has very graciously invested in me as the architect to get the toys that I need to run our data center effectively and offer the highest levels of performance. Right, so it's way more than just buying a bunch of gear and shoving it in a data center. We have to make sure all this stuff talks to and plays nice with each other, right? So not only do we have a fantastic systems administration team, but we have a fantastic group of developers led by Mr. Fred Reynolds and our modern apps department, powered by ServiceNow. I'm sure a lot of the people on the call here, if not everyone, is familiar with the ServiceNow ITIL platform, but it plugs into everything. Which, it's great that we have all these technology, but the ability to single pane of glass it within ServiceNow and have all these different communication tools for all these different software applications, SaaS applications, we can provide a very holistic and very solution-focused product for our customer that gives them everything they need to have effectively a data center in a box as a service. So I think a really interesting point to note here is that we carve up specific sections of these tools for all the different offerings that Nutanix can focus on. So for example, for our DaaS platform, we integrate the Control Up and Liquidware stack along with Citrix or Omnissa to provide them the best tools that they need to get the DaaS product. In conjunction with backups as well, we have Veeam and Wasabi and Azure Blobs to provide the best level of support and services around backup as a service powered by Nutanix. So it's not just individual components. We package all of this together to deliver a complete solution. So I think our customers find a lot of value in that because there's a lot of choice out there and a lot of different paths to go down, and having the complete solution brought to you, I think really, just turnkeys that for customers and says, yes, I just need backups. I don't care what you do with it or how you do it. Just give me backups and give them to me on this precise formula. So that's really what we're doing with our integrated solutions. Kind of diving into the solutions at a very high level, I really want to talk about what all of this stuff runs on, right? The base level of everything here is infrastructure as a service, right? I want someone else to run the stuff in my data center. And Phil and I are very big believers in running the private cloud / hybrid cloud for the specific workloads, because when you have the ability to customize a cluster, right? So Nutanix operates in clusters, and we can deep dive into that in other calls. But when you have the ability to craft exactly what the customer needs, they're not overbuying and they're not underbuying. And that's really where you're going to get cost efficiency from. And you can customize that to stuff that you can't necessarily get as easily in the private cloud, things like GPUs for your data center, right? You can get GPUs in the public cloud, but they're usually for enterprise level compute or AI. They're not really for power VDI users, which is a very big component of the customers that we have in our base. But being able to focus in and laser focus on that offering for customers to really drive efficiency is awesome. And again, we handle all the updates for that, all the drive replacements. Surely I'm not the only one here that's ever had to replace a drive at 3 o'clock in the morning and having to find a field engineer to do that, right? Getting off that load off your plate is just wonderful. We also have the ability, we try to get you as efficient as we can. Sometimes you need to add a workload, you're a retail customer and you have to add 1,000 users for the holiday season. We can accommodate that, right? Nutanix is very good at scaling up and then scaling back down. And as a service provider, our licensing can accommodate that. So you don't have to pay 3 years up front to get licensing that you're only going to use 3 or 4 months out of the year, right? You can consume that from XenTegra as a service provider and scale as you need it. So we cannot give you the best of the hyperscaler world and the best of the kind of customized boutique world. And then finally, because we have the Nutanix platform, which leverages these days the flow of virtual networking, we can actually provide a lot of robust connectivity to our customers using our Fortinet platform or any other firewall as their choice. But we offer a managed network, right? So I am not a CCIE. I'm barely a CCNA. But there's a lot of stuff that goes into modern networking, particularly around security, as Mark so eloquently touched. Like, where's my data going? Who's getting to look at it? We keep all of that stuff very safe and secure in our bubble and manage it completely, not just on the north-south edge, but also on the east-west edge. It's kind of shocking how many customers come into our data center and don't have east-west firewalls or any kind of microsegmentation. And that's just default, right? Like we just default to modern best practices for security. And we don't charge you extra for it, right? It's going to be less headache for everyone if we just kind of put you in a nice armored box and make sure that there's a guard keeper out front rather than having to nickel and dime you for that. That just doesn't make sense from our perspective. So there's a lot of good stuff that we offer as a service in our cloud that we just check the boxes for you automatically. Something that a lot of people are nervous about when they have to do infrastructure as a service is, and as Trevor so alluded to, is the Broadcom, like we're not going to pay that tax. We're going to move to a different platform. That platform is going to be Nutanix, but I've got to take 1 or 2 years to move my workload, right? There's a lot of us back in the day. I remember 2008, we're like Hyper-V is free. And then 2009 hit and it's like, it's not very stable. We're going to move to VMware, right? So I think a lot of us admins did that, which is Hyper-V is great, by the way, don't get me wrong. But there was a lot of us admins that had to do migrations from Hyper-V to ESX or from ESX to KVM or whatever. Philip, I know you do migrations all day, every day to Nutanix as a champion seller here. Can you just talk about realistically, are customers still looking at 1 or 2 years to move their workloads over to Nutanix?
No, one, the business is not allowing IT that kind of time frame anymore. And then two, the tooling doesn't require you to take that long from a migration standpoint. Um, with tooling here, which by the way is not just for moving virtual machines, also for moving files, unstructured data, and it does that extremely well. We're able to get those times down, and it's a really effective tool for us to onboard people into our environments, whether that's hosted or on-prem. So we've got a lot of customers who have made the transition with their mixed workloads. So database services, Active Directory. I mean, there's best practices that we follow, but the great thing about this is it's an easy button at the end of the day. You install move, you point it at your source environment, you point it at the destination, and it's going to do the hard work for you. It's already got it mapped out. It handles the steps of uninstalling the VMware or Hyper-V tools out of the image. It automatically injects what you need for Nutanix. And so it's another great example of that simplification that Nutanix is doing in terms of operations and just making it easy to onboard. It's also not in Hotel California. So you may think, okay, it's great that they give you this tool to get into their stuff, but Move actually can help you with portability to AWS and things like that. So it's not just a one-way street with Move. You can use this included technology to make your migrations easy no matter where you end up with a destination. So I do like that about what they're putting in front of us from a tooling perspective.
You know, I need one of those Pee Wee Herman, you said the magic word, like emotes here,
Word
because
of the day.
word of the day, because you brought up files, which is a great functionality feature set that they've added to Move. I'm one of those guys. I have a very robust my own RoboCopy one-liner. I haven't had to use it in several years because Move has now effectively taken the need away from that, and it makes it a simple button in a UI. So
Well, I'll tell a quick story there. So I worked for an insurance company, lots and lots of PDFs, lots and lots of images and data in our imaging system. We moved storage platforms and we did it with RoboCopy scripts and we did them in parallel because, you know, we could only move so much at a time and it was taking weeks to move this. The same migration with Move took a eighth of the time because it's able to do things smarter, synchronize, and manage that in a way that we weren't able to do manually. So just, you know, real world example of how this technology can be superior. Yeah, we know there's lots of tools out there, but this is an easy button.
Mark, I saw you pop off mute. Did you have a little story you wanted to share too?
Nope. Nope. Thank you, though.
All right. So final fun fact, Move is fully compatible with XenTegra Cloud. You can move your workloads from Timbuktu into our data center just as easy if it was moving from your workloads in your data center on VMware to AHV in your data center. So it's just as simple. We can move it across the tunnel, no problem. So our latest offering that we've deployed inside of our data center or yours is Arc, which is our services wrapped around the magnificent Veeam and Veeam Cloud Connect product suite. So Veeam and Nutanix have been doing, you know, peanut butter and chocolate for many years now, as our founder likes to say. But we wanted to provide backup as a service. It's something that we've dabbled in a little bit in the past, but now we're fully on the train with Nutanix because our customers need a solution for their AHV backups and their Nutanix files backups, and where are those backups going to live, right? So I think Veeam is a great software platform, but you always need somewhere for that data to live as well. So we did all of that with Nutanix and Veeam together. So I'll kind of bring up a little bit of a architecture slide here. So our Veeam Cloud Connect software runs entirely on AHV. Our backup repositories are entirely in Nutanix objects. So we have the capability to back up your workloads, whether your workloads are AHV or VMware or Hyper-V, anything that Veeam can support, XenTegra can back up with Veeam. And we can store that data in our data center or a third party like Wasabi of your choosing. And we can take that technology that we've built for us and deploy it as an edge key deployment in your data center. So if you need backup storage for your Veeam instance, we can deliver Nutanix-based object storage with immutable storage in your data center and have it ran and managed centrally by our engineers, which is very, very easy for our customers to consume backup services, right? You just need to tell us how many virtual machines you need to back up or how much file storage you need. And we can just instantly deploy, ship you an appliance or create an IPsec tunnel to our data center and offload that to us entirely. So it's a really great turnkey deployment for customers who just say, I just need backups, right? And let me know when they explode, right? Because software is great, but it doesn't always work, or you've got some weird snapshot driver that blows up and we need to go in there and fix it. Like, it's completely hands off, right? You get the report every day that says my backups are done, they're safely stored in XenTegra Cloud, and you have the option to spin them up in our cloud dynamically and check them. And in the event that California falls off into the ocean, see you, Mark. Or I guess you're in Vegas now, but we can restore your data onto an Nutanix platform from the data that we back up over the IPsec tunnel. Trevor was super adamant about getting us the backup technology built on top of Nutanix and Veeam, because, you know, Veeam is that industry standard. I think everyone is very ubiquitous with it. and we wanted to provide the biggest net to be able to provide our customers the ability to get them the backups that they need with the trust, because as we all very aware, in this era of ransomware, you need to be 100% sure that your backups are secure and safe, and that they work, right? And so we deliver that holistically. So we do offer kind of a different SKU levels. We found that some customers just want us to kind of keep the eyes on everything. So we've broken the solution out from, hey, just give me the licenses and let me know when something blows up. I'll let our engineers handle all the policies and everything, to like, hey, I don't want to even hear the word backup. Right? You guys just make sure that everything's taken care of. So we've split our offerings up to provide the most value to our customers based on their need. And really provide the most flexible offerings based on, different levels of SKUs. You don't have to worry about, I need this version of Enterprise Plus with this level of storage, right? We give that to you all turnkey, with the option of being turnkey, or you can micromanagement as tune the knobs as much as you want to. We find that the customers really like this model, and all credit to Trevor for thinking about it. So good job, Trevor.
Thanks, Brian.
But as Trevor alluded to in the beginning of the call, what set Nutanix apart different from me was storage, right? So when I started being an engineer, I was storage greedy, right? And I remember way back in the day, they would say that you can have storage cheap and deep, or fast and expensive, right? And I feel like Nutanix can give both of those options and stuff in the middle as well. And so by all means, Nutanix storage, NUS, unified storage is what sold me on it. It is Nutanix files. If you are a Citrix or any kind of VDI administrator, or even a basic Windows administrator, like Nutanix files is a lifesaver. I don't know. I would imagine every system admin on this call has had their file server reboot in the middle of the day, and just taking down the entire enterprise. Having the high availability Nutanix Files platform was mind-blowing. I mean, if you've been doing new storage services in the data center space since like NetApp's been around, and NetApp has always been like the gold standard for filers, right? And if you're an admin like me, you've never had the budget to have NetApp. And I think Nutanix Files gives you all of that amazing tool set and delivers it to you at a very, very reasonable cost, with the ability to expand that offering to things like objects, getting all flash without having to break the bank, which is just incredible. One of the,
Hey, Brian.
yeah,
Hey, sorry to interrupt. Just question.
yeah.
How many customers have you run into that have, doing everything right, in their data center, HA everything, they've got 2 data centers, GSLB, they're doing so much right when it comes to redundancy, but then they have single file servers that their profiles sit for FS Logic or some other critical that ends up getting them. Like, I mean, how many people, what percentage of people actually have redundant file servers? And it's probably more these days than it was a few years ago, but it's still probably not super high.
That's a great question. And I want to say 95% still have Windows-based file servers, with about 3% having scaled out file server built using Windows file server. So even then, and which is a very moody solution at best. So Phil, you play a lot more in the outside world than I do. You have any adjustments on those numbers?
No, I will say it's still overwhelmingly Windows based. But a single Windows server's got a finite amount of performance that you can get out of a single server. It's certainly not redundant enough. And then, God forbid that you adopt DFS replication. I inherited a large DFS replication environment, and I had to dedicate 1.5 full-time employees to managing DFS replication. There's nothing wrong at all with DFS namespace. We use a lot of DFS namespace with Nutanix files. We recommend it be deployed that way. but replication is a completely different story. And so we moved to alternative platforms, including NetApp Filer, to be able to kind of get that scale. So for the customers that aren't Windows based, they are generally using something like a NetApp that gives them that superior scale. Now you get that same benefit no matter how large of a customer you are, because that same goodness is just available to you in Nutanix. And as a former NetApp customer, I will say that setting up a filer, an on-tap array, it's not the most straightforward thing to do. You've got all of these other specialized concepts you have to take into account with your aggregates, and you got all of these different configuration nerd knobs to kind of configure inside of a Nutanix, in a NetApp filer array. So those things go away with Nutanix Unified Storage. It's a very straightforward, easy to manage sort of implementation for files, while you get the performance and the scale out and all the other benefits too. So there's really no downsides to unified storage.
100%. Just FYI for anyone on the call here, they do offer 1 TB free. You do get 50 gigs free per user when you have a VDI license on the Pro SKU, and 100 gigs per user on the Ultimate SKU. So if you've got VDI and Nutanix, they're pretty much giving you the file server for free with that, which is fantastic. If you leverage us as a partner, you can and you use our infrastructure as a service, you can actually pay for files as you go, or we can bring that into your data center, right? So for example, if you like your own Veeam solution, or you have something else that you want to use, but you want to use Nutanix objects and mutable storage, you can buy that from XenTegra and pay as you go. You don't have to buy 100 TIBs upfront for 3 years, right? If you want to use 50 TIBs month 1 and then 52 month 2 and then drop down to 30 TIBs month 3, that is all possible with XenTegra with a turnkey Nutanix appliance. So one of the many offerings we have as a service provider to being able to flex up and down on storage, which is like virtually unheard of, right? Like you're almost always going to pay for the storage, more storage than you need up front, and then have to run the numbers and analytics to figure out, is that number going to be accurate? Not so with a service provider like us. Phil, I want you to touch on just what Nutanix files can do for customers. I threw this slide in here because I'm a big file storage fan. I'm just going to talk about this for 3 hours, so I need someone who's more pragmatic about it and just kind of talk real, give me 30 seconds on file storage.
Well, files in Nutanix is a scale out solution to begin with. So you're going to start with 3 FSVMs most times, and Nutanix has the concept of a distributed share. So basically, once you create a distributed share, all 3 of those are going to become, serving partners for files. And so that means you're going to get more performance out of the gate. And then if you require more performance than that, then we add additional file nodes. The great thing about files is it's a software implementation. It's on the same cluster with Nutanix. You've got NFS and SMB file sharing capability, so you can do both Linux and Windows file use cases. And one of the things you don't get very good out of the box from a Windows perspective is auditing and reporting. So every files implementation can include analytics. There's a great product from Nutanix called Data Lens. It is a cloud service today, but it can look at a files deployment as well as third party like NetApp Filer, help you find cold data to tier off to a lower cost storage. It can help you pinpoint things that are going on inside of your files. And so that's a big game changer from a operations perspective. So you could see, malicious activity potentially before you get an encryption or a widespread encryption. And so there's other things from an analytics standpoint on the files platform. But again, out of the gate, it's very simple. And last bullet point around complete integration with AOS and Prism. What does that actually mean? It means that all that great lifecycle management we talked about for a Nutanix cluster applies to files too. It's going to help you keep it up to date, perform upgrades, perform scale out, All of those activities are mapped out to make it easy for you to be able to maintain this long term. And in the case of a service provider, that just means less time to get to the value that you're looking for, more tools for Brian and the whole managed service team to be able to respond when you need something. And so that's why I think you should care about it as a customer. Is it just means it's faster and more reliable for you when you're consuming it as a managed service.
Well said. Yeah, by all means, if you have Nutanix and you don't have it deployed, you get 1 tip free. Please play around with it. It's fantastic. So now we're going to move into the DAS story, and this is where really the Nutanix story started for XenTegra. And Citrix and Nutanix are working collaboratively more and more every day. Here, this actually is a little bit of an outdated slide. It used to be that you would connect your Citrix environment to HP directly. Now you can have native integration with Prism Central, which means you can have multi-cluster VDI, which is super cool if you're nerding out like me. How far the development of the tool technology has come. We have all kinds of webinars of Citrix and Nutanix, so I'm not going to talk too much about it here, but just know that we have a very cost-effective offering from our cloud, fully featured, not just Nutanix, but all the wonderful bits and gizmos and software services that control up and liquidware that you need to deliver an awesome VDI experience. This is our story. It speaks for itself. Please, if you have any questions about this, there's so much material on it. Moving on into our DR story, I do want to touch on that we've taken all of these products that we've talked about and we've built them into the DR platform. This is kind of our golden jewel as XenTegra. We're one of 4 service providers in North America that are able to offer this at the championship level, or I think even higher now. Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's where as high as you can go here. So we took all these wonderful technologies that Nutanix offers to build the disaster recovery as a service, because you need to be able to do everything in the DR. So, we said, how are we going to do DR? Where is it going to live? Right. In our example here, you have a cloud provider, just FYI, you can run Nutanix in AWS. It's called NC2. It's super cool. And then, I need to have multiple environments. How am I going to distribute the data between those environments? Can I have active and passive? Can I have active and warm? Can I have active and active? We make all of that super duper easy. You can see here that we have a customer in the East Coast with a West Coast location. We separate them logically with Fortinet VDOMs, and then we can isolate them on a network level using Nutanix Flow VPCs. VPCs are exactly the same technology you'd see them in AWS. It allows us to essentially take your layer 3 domain and put it in a bubble, so you can isolate yourself and not have to re-IP anything. The servers, when they move between Nutanix VPCs, don't even know that they've been moved. Or even from a VLAN to a VPC, it doesn't know it's been moved. So it's allows us to fail over between coasts in active passive arrangements and very quickly bring up workloads, and the customer has no idea that they've been moved. So I'm going to skip a slide here. Our disaster recovery as a service offering is entirely white glove based. We do allow you the ability to fail over as much as you want. We provide analytics for that. How is your data being replicated? What's going on? How are these RPOs and RTOs being met? We allow you to bring up those workloads in an isolated sandbox environment. Hey, does it even boot up? Right? Can my DBA log in and check the health of the database? Absolutely, that's not a problem. My favorite part here is the business continuity plan updates. So if you have any kind of modern cybersecurity or cyber liability insurance requirements, XenTegra fills that gap for you. We give you the documentation that you need to provide to those companies to say, hey, we've done our disaster recovery check, we've done a file restore, we've done annual failovers, right? All of that is provided in our documentation. Again, our slide here is a little bit out of date. This is 52 pages. This is a sample, fake tenant that we create and create documentation for with just a handful of workloads, and the documentation is 52 pages long. So you can see here that we did get a lot of information that we find very valuable for those companies. Have you done validation tests? What are the results of those tests? How often do you do those tests? What were the results? All of that's included in here, along with step-by-step instructions on how do I fail over, right? So we provide managed failovers for you, right? So we include so many with your agreement that, the XenTegra pilots are there with you as you fly this journey. Right? We do it every day. We have failovers happening almost every weekend here at XenTegra, or sometimes during the week. So we're very confident in how we fail over virtual machines. Or you can do it by yourself, and then you can just follow this document step by step with screenshots of how do I get from A to B, from my data center to yours, from the West Coast to the East Coast. In general, you're looking at about 30 minutes to fail over into us. We have that Equinix backbone. We have multi-100 gigs available in. And then about 2 hours back if you're on about a 1 gig pipe with about 20 terabytes worth of workload. So there's a lot of information here that we provide. This documentation, I feel like, is the most valuable component of our service. And a lot of customers really enjoy the offering, this specific part of the offering. Again, just like our backup as a service, it's carved up in different levels of SKU time. We do offer the ability to scale up those clusters as you need to. So, for example, if you have 100 terabytes worth of storage spread across 10 nodes, you can probably squeeze that down into 3 nodes worth of storage and then burst your node count up when you actually need to do a failover. This really helps you be cost effective in the Nutanix licensing that you require. You're only paying for the additional nodes as you're in use. And we can just cram as much storage as we can under the smallest node count. Very, very cost effective for our customers. We handle all of the work to burst that cluster up and then shrink it back down as part of your service agreement. So very white glove, at the same time saving you money. We do offer the ARC solution there as well, right? That is just Veeam with Cloud Connect, the ability to back up your workloads into our data center. We dynamically generate a Nutanix cluster on the fly for you, bring your workloads online, and then use Nutanix replication to sync that back when you're done. So again, very cost effective, just at the cost of higher RPO and RTO. I'd like to give a big shout out to North American Credit Services for allowing us to talk about their story as they had to do a failover and chose us for disaster recovery. Trevor, I'm going to let you talk to this. You've been a little too quiet, and I think you know Dallas super well over there at NACS, and you always light up whenever you talk about him.
Yeah, you win the war of words today. No, I appreciate that. So we've got 3 minutes, so we'll try to bring it home here. So this isn't just a great story of a customer that was leveraging Leap, and if there's iLeap, and there's a number of customers that are in that place looking for another solution right now because Nutanix decided to get out of that particular market. So when we got with the team at NACS, I mean, they basically spelled out the situation. They weren't necessarily like, hey, we have to have 5-minute RTO times, we'll pay whatever. It was more like, hey, we've got requirements for high trust. We have to check the box. But we can sacrifice on some RTO time. And so that's really where we came in, and I think we were unique in being able to provide something other than just dedicating a mirror of the production, which gets expensive, not just hardware, but the licensing and everything to just have it there, for a failover, when you don't have that super low RTO requirement. And so just a long story short is we were able to come in and position a solution that really just met the requirements, and really overachieved the requirements, and their price point at the same time. So another part of the story is they needed it like we all, when do you need it? You need it yesterday. And that's kind of the situation. And we were able to, expedite that for their team and come in and make it happen, in less than, in a couple of weeks. We were able to fully onboard them migrate everything, test it, network, everything from network to, document, I think we might have been finishing up documentation a little bit past that. I don't know, Brian, but we definitely, the service was up and running within a few weeks for sure, to meet their requirements. But yeah, it's one of many stories. And the one thing that I would say about our DR is that, and I'm so like, I guess proud of in a lot of ways, is that we are outcome based. Most customers come to us freaked out about pushing the button to fail over, for the obvious reasons. Hey, I really don't want to bring something down. I really don't want to punch myself in the face today. And going through our process of onboarding and doing our rinse and repeat of best practices with the solution, it's a combination of things. It's a great solution with Nutanix that provides a lot of the feature functionality, but it's also obviously the XenTegra blueprint, and being able to come in and say, hey, here's a shortcut to making this happen and happen fast, is where our customers come in hesitant to push a button, and then after a few tests, after onboarding, it's a complete change. They tell us every day that they're confident that when they hit the button that it's going to work, and they're not worried about the outcome. So but awesome. I'll one other thing that Philip actually does, we have a number of podcasts, but Philip hosts a Nutanix, is it still weekly or is it monthly?
We try for weekly. It doesn't always hit weekly, but
Yeah, I mean,
it
but they
is
do it.
aptly
Yeah.
Nutanix Weekly.
I encourage you guys to listen to that if you get, you're driving or whatever and want to learn something new. He always has, the Nutanix team, different people from the Nutanix on, different people from XenTegra, and they have great conversations. They get super technical, and I always learn something when I jump on. So, I don't know, anything else, guys? You want to add? I know we're over 2 minutes, so we didn't do a good job on timing, but I guess that's my fault. So.
I just want to buy more Nutanix after listening to this whole thing. You guys told me.
Amen, Mark. Amen.
There we go.
Well, I think the switch data center needs some more Nutanix in it. So
Could happen.
yeah. Well, awesome. Well, hey, anybody that's still on, thank you again for joining, and we'll be sending out the recording and the deck. So feel free to share that. Also, yeah, thank you guys for jumping on and kind of sharing your experiences, and it's always great to spend time together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, see you.